I rented the Aquarium tunnel after midnight. What the glass remembered better than us. I didn't rent the Aquarium tunnel because I love fish. I rented it because water tells the truth, and glass refuses to lie for anybody after midnight. If you volunteer enough Saturday mornings lugging salt mix and pretending you know the Latin for things that would rather be left unnamed, the night facilities manager learns your face. I'd helped Javier free a jammed pump in February, my fingertips wrinkled to raisins, the two of us swearing softly in the key of civic decency. So when I texted at 11:18 p.m., he called back from a radio that made every sentence sound like a confession. "You can have the tunnel till 1," he said. "Cameras looped, lights on blue. Bring it back cleaner than you found it. And come on, man, no trials after 2." He laughed without any joy and told me which side door wouldn't argue. At 11:41 my phone delivered the sentence my marriage could type asleep. Loadout ran late, quick debrief turned into a drink, might crash at the office. Don't wait up. Myra does not lie. She arranges storms into something you can drive through without pulling over to cry. She can move 50 volunteers like a choir and talk a donor down from a ledge with one eyebrow. For a year we've been very good citizens of our life together. Rent on time, calendar polite, desire with its hair combed. Then the operations lead arrived like a roomer with good posture. His name is Devon. He carries gaffer in a tote, patience in his shoulders, and stands exactly one respectful step from married women as if there were an ordinance. In daylight I admire him. At 12:10 a.m., the base of my skull files a descent. The tunnel curved under 800,000 gallons of temperamental truth. Sharks slid like sentences someone had the patience to finish. Rays moved like promises that had learned choreography. I stood on the rubber walkway with 2 paper cups of coffee and the key Javier had slipped me, and I watched the late shift of moonlight go about its business in other people's water. They came down the service stairs at 12:06. Myra first, hair pinned in the shape competence requires, heels hanging off one finger because competence learns when to surrender grace. Devon behind her, sleeves shoved, toed at his hip, eyes doing the perimeter math men who lift after midnight teach themselves so they survive their reputations. He saw me first. Good men track husbands as if every fluorescent fixture contains a cross-examination. "Really," Myra said, smiling with one side of her mouth. "You booked the tunnel." "I wanted a room where sound travels slower," I said. "Say it in blue, it will still be true." Devon stopped at the line where the carpet meets the plexiglass. His palms faced the ceiling like he was prepared to be furniture. "Do you need me?" he asked her, not me. "I need you exactly there," she said, pointing to the place where tourists stand when they remember their mammals. "If I want less distance, I'll use proper nouns." He obeyed in the way men do who intend to keep being allowed near other people's lives without auditioning for one. The nurse sharks turned above us and pretended not to listen. "Say it," I told Myra, quietly enough to respect the room, loudly enough to respect us. "In an elevator," she said, because fate has no budget for new writers. 2 weeks ago, between floors and nouns, I kissed him, quick, mint, rehearsal. He stepped back. He said my name like a lock. I hated him for being exactly who he needs to be. I almost hated me for liking that he was. "Do you want me to hit him?" I asked, and the leopard shark drifted past like a judge with tenure. "I want you to choose me," she said. "Not rescue, appetite." The tunnel hummed the way big water hums when it has decided to endure us. I reached and put my hand at the back of her neck, thumb finding the small notch I reserve for emergencies that ought to be pleasures. Her eyes closed like a vote counted publicly. I kissed her. Jurisdiction, not apology. She answered like a woman who had been a plan all day and wanted 4 minutes where her body got to do something that wouldn't fit on a spreadsheet. My other hand slid along her ribs to the place where fabric makes civilization a team sport. I stopped because laws are the only furniture that doesn't tip in a current. She took my lower lip between her teeth, then laughed into my cheek, a sound I've used to climb winters. "Do you still want to hit him?" she asked without turning toward the line where Devon had become a hallway. "I want to thank him for stepping back," I said, "and I want to owe him nothing else." "That will feed me," she said. We stood in blue light that pretends to be mercy. She told me the truth I didn't earn and she didn't owe. The kiss had been curiosity dressed as courage. The stopping had been the only part of the night she wanted to see again in daylight. Tonight's almost felt like a door practicing her name and found it fitted. I told her about the motel key I didn't ask for, the parking lot I left before the room could learn my face, the laugh I let out alone that sounded like a better man showing up with a toolbox and a willingness to read directions. A ray drifted over us like someone erasing a chalkboard in slow motion. Devon cleared his throat in the polite key that keeps vans loaded and rumors thin. "Loadin' at 9, he said to the carpet. "The truck wants 4 backs and 0 speeches." He did not move. He did not ask for absolution. He became the respectful step back that keeps cities functioning and marriages from turning into press releases. Myra kicked her heels under the bench and padded barefoot on the rubber until she stood where the tunnel narrowed, where the glass bulged a little like a lens that had made up its mind. "Do something foolish," she said, "but survivable." I balanced on the curb and pressed a hand against the glass. A wobbegong paused as if the verb I wanted hadn't been invented yet. I pulled a grease pencil from my pocket, the kind docents use for temporary labels, and wrote 3 words in small letters at the bottom border where the mop always misses: "Choose before currents." She took the pencil, and with the authority she uses on budgets and stubborn light fixtures, wrote on the inside of her wrist in tiny script, "Appetite, not theater." I kissed the ink dry and let the tunnel pretend we were adolescents. The bamboo sharks circled like punctuation marks with bad manners. "Invite me when you're interesting," I said into the place below her ear where sentences rehearse. "Not only when you're frightened, you'll be easier to love in other lighting." "I am inviting you," she said, "now and at 9 and under the worst fluorescence we own." We kept our clothes and our lives. We made heat that could exit through a lobby without borrowing grace. Blue washed the edges off everything, including our reasons. Somewhere behind the wall, a pump kicked on and the tunnel remembered it was a machine. We watched a small school of Pilchard's pivot all at once, the city version of honesty. "I almost texted you proof," she said. "Screenshots, time stamps, as if evidence were love wearing a badge." "I almost weaponized my suspicion," I said. "I drafted speeches that would have gotten a standing ovation from my worst self. I deleted them like a responsible arsonist." She laughed and pressed her forehead to mine. The glass offered our reflections the courtesy of not being very good. At 12:40 the blue dimmed 1 notch, a polite nudge from Javier's calendar. I poured the coffees into us and we walked the tunnel like parishioners. Above us, a sand tiger glided with the blank serenity of a bureaucrat. "Look at him," Myra said. "He doesn't even want to be believed. He just is." "Maybe that's the trick," I said. "Be interesting where belief isn't required." Devon shifted his weight the way decent men do when it is time to resolve to continue to be decent. He looked at the emergency exit with the fondness of a man who knows what doors are for. "If I'm in the way," he said, "say so, and I'll be a hallway." "You're a hallway," I said. "At 9 you're a van." He nodded once. The blue light made his patience look expensive. We sat on the bench and watched a volunteer diver's slate sign drift past on its tether. FEDING 10 a.m. I could hear Javier's radio crackle a floor above like thunder practicing. "Tell me the worst thing you almost did," Myra said. "I almost turned our house into a courtroom," I said. "Exhibits A through Z counsel, approach. I almost liked the choreography of winning more than the practice of staying." "I almost promoted a maybe to a myth," she said. "I almost let an elevator become a religion. I almost forgot I could choose before it did." We took turns pressing our palms to the glass, leaving fog ovals that vanished as if modesty had the night shift. I pulled her back to me with 2 fingers at her waist and kissed the place her pulse keeps the minutes honest. She made a sound I could live on for a quarter. There is a particular intimacy to blue that makes rooms confess even when you don't ask. We told the small truths, how she likes the veil of steam on the bathroom mirror before she touches my face, how I need 10 seconds of silence after the lights go out to trust sleep, how both of us fear the day competence stops being a good disguise. We promise things in the grammar of people who intend to keep them. "I'll show up in your rooms when they're fluorescent. I'll let hunger have a chair at the meeting. I'll forgive us forward, not backward." At 12:57, the tunnel exhaled the way machines do when they've made it to closing without becoming metaphors. We collected her heels and our cups and the pencil with our small, stubborn ink on it. Devon held the door and did not look at either of us as we passed. Javier met us at the side exit with a tired grin. "Leave it better than you found it?" he asked, like a catechism. "I wiped our fingerprints from the glass," I said. "Leave one," he said, "so the night knows who to thank." Outside, the parking lot smelled like ocean that has met too many semis. We stood between 2 cars and practiced turning tomorrow into prose. She touched my wrist, daylight legal, and the air around us changed its mind about temperature. At 9, the community center smelled like lemon spelling competence. Devon was already stacking tables with that modest inevitability that makes gravity behave. I carried the other end and let the sun assign me jurisdiction. Myra moved through the room with a clipboard and a mouth that persuades backs to love their work for 1 more hour. When she passed me, she tapped the ink on her wrist with 2 fingers, and the morning chose us without a speech. On break, I set a coffee by Devon's elbow. "Thank you," I said, "for being the adult in the elevator." "Thank you," he said, "for booking a room where the walls don't lie." He looked at the concrete and then at the doorway, the practiced gaze of a man who knows how to keep his job and his soul in the same building. We loaded the truck without ceremony. Tape squealed, a case thudded, lists were checked, error forgave itself. The van door slid shut like an argument ending in the right key. We didn't tell anyone about the aquarium. We taped a visitor wristband to the side of our fridge under the magnet shaped like the ridiculous boat we bought one summer we didn't ruin. Sometimes when the house auditions for courtroom, we walk down to the river at dusk and watch the surface insist it is a mirror and not an exit. Sometimes she texts come and means stand next to me while I bend a room into competence and beauty. Sometimes I text come and mean watch me be a body before I become a plan. Sometimes we take a friend who has mistaken theater for appetite and stand with them beneath the sharks until blue light teaches their breath to decide. We did not stop admiring other people's competence. We did stop confusing it with permission. Heat is a temperature, not a verdict. Water is a witness that keeps moving even when you insist on staying still. We eat before we try to win. We sleep when the clock loses its manners. We put our hands on each other in daylight like the sun still issues licenses. And when the gossip part of the city asks whether we have anything to add, we tell it we rented a tunnel where fish forgot our names, kissed in blue that recorded nothing but our temperature, and left 3 small words on the glass where a mop can't find them. Choose before currents. No trials after 2. The rest is only water deciding what it remembers.